Young friends, and welcome back to the Torsie channel for more IU and a breakdown of the visual language of the BB music video. I am very excited to talk about the visual language. We've talked about the choreography, we've talked about lyrics, we've had a first watch reaction to it, but now we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of the symbolism that we can see in this music video. There is quite a bit to get through, so let's just get straight into it, yeah? Gotcha. I wanted to start by calling out a couple of the main elements of the visual language in this music video that will be seen throughout, and we're going to see it repeated as we come through all of the scenes. The first of those are the costumes. We have 3 different types of costume. The first is streetwear, then we have sheer dresses, and then we have floral motifs. So the streetwear looks are the grungy patchwork hoodie, the cheetah print beret and jacket, and the red hooded track pant look that comes at the end. These actually represent 3 different genres of music. We have grunge, we have punk rock, and we have hip hop, all of which were counterculture music when they first came out before they were made a little more mainstream, if they were ever adopted into the mainstream. These 3 looks, I think, are meant to be ever so slightly aggressive. They're certainly meant to be slightly against the norm, that we are talking that counterculture thing where there is an expectation and we're doing something else completely. Then we have the sheer dresses looks. We have the yellow look, the white look, and the holographic look. All 3 of these outfits are actually quite modest. They cover from the neck to the ankle, but something about them is sheer. So the holographic shirt is sheer, and underneath it is lace, which is also a material that you can see through. The skirt is chiffon, and although there are many layers making it opaque, chiffon by nature is a sheer material. So that's an almost completely see-through outfit. The white dress is completely sheer and then paired with a denim jacket to cover the top, and the yellow skirt is also sheer, and the top, which is also chiffon, is layered, so it is more opaque, but the whole thing is in fact sheer. I think this is representing that even when dressed modestly and trying to keep her most private self to herself, there is still an invasion of the privacy, and IU is unable to protect even her most private self. Finally, we have the flower motif, which just turns up in a couple of outfits. We have the floral dress and we have the green jumper look. The green jumper look has the word roses on it, and we're going to get to that in a little bit because that's actually probably the most important costume in here, maybe. I don't know, I'm going to make that call. We're going to approach that in a little bit, but then the sneakers have a floral print on them. This to me is calling out that imagery of a flower blooming in adversity, a blade of grass cracking a concrete sidewalk, or a rose blooming in a desert. Among all of this hate and difficulty, IU continues to blossom and grow despite it all. So those are the costumes, and we'll keep an eye out for all of those as we go through. As important as those costumes are, the most important part of this music video is actually the use of colour. Obviously, yellow is the most important colour in the music video. And no, this was not an accident like IU. I got dressed with purpose today, thank you very much. Yellow used in this music video is anything that is IU's, and IU's personal space is coloured yellow. So we're going to see yellow rooms, yellow lights, yellow beds. If it's yellow, it's hers. And that includes the umbrella that she takes with her so she can have her personal space wherever she goes. The yellow card in a sporting game of any kind, really, that's your warning. You've had an infraction, you get a yellow card, you got to watch what you're doing because otherwise a red card is coming next. There are actually only 3 things in this entire music video that are a hard red color, and those are the hard stop zones. We have a red outfit, a red phone, and a red flag, and we'll get to all of those in a little bit. The color that is far more prominent is actually a peach color. Peach being what you get when you mix yellow and red. Peach turns up in most scenes, and I think is representative of what happens when you do cross past the yellow and you're heading towards the red. There is so much peach in this music video. I think what it's saying is that this occurs too frequently, or it happens with too many people, that there is this abundance of peach. The third color is blue or blue-green. So I was informed of this by a member of our community a little while ago, and then was reminded when I was looking up the significance of blue and green in Korean culture. Back in the day, certainly during the Joseon era, blue and green were considered shades of the same color. So they actually had the same name. As we go through the music video, you're going to see blues that are clearly blue, greens that are clearly green, and then a whole lot of in between, some aquas and some turquoise. So I think we can look at all of blue and green as one thing and lump it in together as that indication of green means go, it's a good space, all that kind of jazz. There is another meaning to blue though. Back in the day, blue and red were the 2 most expensive dyes globally. So this is the same for European culture as it is for Asian culture, where blue and red were so expensive that these colors were reserved for nobility and royalty. That's why you have royal blue, royal red, and royal purple. Purple, of course, being made up of blue and red, and we'll come to purple in a second. In the Joseon era, a high official would wear a blue robe because it was such an expensive dye. Another massive flex of that era was to use blue roof tiles on your home because it was so outrageously expensive. That was how you indicated to other people that you were phenomenally wealthy. All that to say that blue is a symbol of royalty and of wealth and of nobility, and therefore something that sets people separate and apart, quite like a celebrity today. So apart from blue being used in conjunction with green as being a good area, a calm area, an area that we're okay to occupy, it's also being used in this music video to represent celebrity, which then brings us to the purple, because the purple can be seen as that as well. Again, as I said, like this was a color for the royals because it was blue and red mixed together. So we can take hints of purple as maybe a hint of celebrity, but most importantly, this is IU. This is an IU music video. This is IU telling her story, and where there's IU, there's purple. There's the song Lilac. There is the Chat Cheer album. There are microphones. She calls UN as violets. Purple and IU go together. So although we can connect it to nobility as we have the blue, the purple, I think, through the music video really is representing IU. So when you see purple, that's her. The other fun thing about purple, though, is it is also connected to creativity, magic, and spiritualism. And we do have a moment later on where she's wearing a pair of purple shoes and something kind of magical happens. So that is also something to look out for. Yellow, red, peach, blue, green, and purple. Those are the building blocks of the visual language of this music video. So the very first thing we see in this music video are the cartoon symbols of sleep in the black background. Of course, these are in yellow. And as the scene reveals itself to this green room, we see that this is coming from IU asleep on a yellow mattress. Yellow, as we've identified, is her personal space and not to be touched upon by other people. There is another yellow item in this room that we're going to see a little more clearly later, and that is a phone. The rest of this room, however, when we wake up from our yellow mattress, is all green, delightfully. Green walls, green floor. And I think this is suggesting that this is, or at least was, a safe space, a happy place, somewhere where she felt very comfortable and not intruded upon. But we do find out later that this is no longer her safe space and she has to leave it. As for the pictures on the wall, we have roosters, raccoons, pigs, dogs, goats, and a goldfish. The goldfish is the most obvious symbol that's on there. When a person lives a life in the public eye, we say that they live in a goldfish bowl, being observed at all times. The goldfish is one of the only animals that isn't masquerading as a human in all of these pictures, the other one being the rooster. Roosters, and I'm going to read this out to make sure I get it right. Roosters in Korean culture are good omens, and they symbolize intelligence, patience, trust, and bravery. I think the roosters and the goldfish are not in human clothes for a reason. The rest of these animals on the walls mostly represent other good things. So pigs are a symbol of fortune and luck, and they are sometimes used to expel evil spirits. Dogs bring happiness. Goats are also a sign of good luck. And raccoons, this sounds negative, but I don't think it is a negative attribute. Raccoons symbolize disguise, trickery, adaptability, dexterity, resourcefulness, and training. So I think all of these animals that are dressed as people are representative of good influences in her life. Friends, family, perhaps people who trained or mentored her, hence the raccoon. And so we've kind of got a wall here of family or friend portraits. The only animals not being dressed as humans being the goldfish and the rooster. If this is a wall of family and friends, then I think it would stand to reason to say that the goldfish is a self-portrait. That's IU's photo. But I also think the rooster is IU's photo. Perhaps the goldfish is the public image IU and the rooster is the private image IU. But neither one of them are dressed up in the jacket and the tie, and I think that's because they are supposed to both represent her. She takes a moment to look at them, and I think this is a bit of a farewell because she knows she's about to leave this space. The next thing we have is out in the corridor of what we can assume is her apartment. We have her yellow front door, and then everything else is in this peach color that we're going to get over and over and over again. This is saying to me that to encroach on her private space, which is highlighted by the yellow, is to be going into that red zone. They've passed the yellow and they're heading towards the red because they're in this peach space. So if you, for example, found out where she lived and hung around her apartment block, that would very much be putting you in the red zone. Hence why she looks so uncomfortable there. And all of the scenes that are in this hallway space, she's looking uncomfortable. We have her peeking out the door as if she's checking to see if anyone's waiting outside. We have her looking behind her at one point to see if anyone's lurking around. She's not comfortable in this space, and of course she's not. It's this peach color. It's worth noting when we go back into the green room just how big the goldfish portrait is. What's fun and interesting about goldfish, here's my goldfish fact, get ready. Fun goldfish fact. That factoid that goldfish only have 3 seconds memories is actually a furphy. It's not true at all. A whole lot of studies have been done on goldfish and they've found that goldfish have really good memories. I think in terms of celebrity, that's like saying that your actions against the celebrity will not be forgotten. Although she's being stared at and observed, she's not going to forget that you are penetrating her personal space like that. This is going to be remembered because goldfish, against popular belief, actually do remember everything very well. Getting a closer look at this hoodie that she's wearing. This is called the Crazy Mixed Hoodie by Joe Gush. I looked very, very, very hard at the hoodie to see if I could pick out what was going on in the patchwork and if it was significant in any way. I didn't find anything, and when you look at the Crazy Mixed Hoodie online, you can see that most of the hoodies are slightly different because they've pulled lots of different patchwork. The patchwork is all made up of some sort of pop culture reference. So she's just covered herself in pop culture here. Much like her album Pieces, the pieces do make up a whole. They do make up a picture, but it's not the whole picture. You're never seeing everything completely. And of course, her hair is braided in yellow and purple. That is representing herself and her self-ownership. So we get the first close-up of the holographic look. We have the one huge earring showing that we are imbalanced. We have the sheer material that we can see through. I was fascinated by the glitter makeup. At this point, I came across a Korean TikTok that said that glitter eyeshadow is popular at the moment because it makes you look like you've just cried. And crying, or just finishing crying, is apparently considered very pretty. If that is the case with this glitter eye makeup, we have an image of IU who has been made to cry. We get a look at her outdoor space. So now that she's stepped outside, she has had to cover herself up and she's put these huge scarves around her head. And we zoom out to see tiny little IU in this repeated imagery of all of the balconies. This terrifying piece of modern art that we're looking at serves a couple of purposes. One, it makes her look very alone and isolated, even though she's among the crowd of the balconies, but it also means that she stands out as an obvious target. We have that moment that I talked about before where she's standing in front of her front door and she's looking around herself, wondering who might be lurking. Maybe there have been previous incidents where somebody has been lurking in this space, hence why it's peach colored, but she looks nervous to go into her home, which has now become an uneasy space. And we know it's become an uneasy space because she's having to take down all of her pictures. She's clearly moving. This place has been corrupted in some way. We come to an absolutely massive amount of yellow. We have yellow walls, yellow skirting boards, red carpet. We have the full yellow outfit, and then the yellow of the newspapers. The thing to note here is the sheer amount of yellow. So if we're associating yellow with IU and her personal space, we can take the amount of yellow on the newspapers as meaning the amount that is being written about her and her personal space. And then we see it in this huge pile to indicate the frequency with which she has spoken about and the prominence that her private life takes in the daily news. There's also that peachy red color on the newspapers. So we can take the yellow for being intrusive and then the red on the newspaper as crossing the line. Somebody has said something that is completely outrageous and they've gone into the red zone. On the back wall as well, we have a stencil drawing of a pair of eyes that's looking right out at us. It's almost like the walls have eyes. She has no privacy. Somebody is watching her at all times. Also note that the chair that she's sitting on is an aqua color. So it is that blue-green that we've spoken about about, that is not just a symbol of maybe peace, as the green room in the beginning should have been, but a symbol of celebrity. Back to the balconies, and we have yellow sheets or yellow flags absolutely everywhere, which shows that everybody else is entitled to their personal space. Everybody in all of the places around her are all getting their personal space except IU. She's turning the binoculars back on us, but the binoculars are usually on her. I'm just gonna get super biased for a second. This is totally my favorite part of the music video for the sake of this jumper that you barely even see. Firstly, of course, if we take purple to mean IU, we have a purple dartboard. And to be IU is to have darts thrown at you, to have people throw insults or hate at you. Then we have this jumper. You might be able to just see in this picture, this blurred kind of image here, that is actually a cantering horse with a jockey on it. And it says Run for the Roses. So Run for the Roses is a name for the Kentucky Derby, or I think an American would pronounce it Derby, Kentucky Derby. I'm not American. Derby, Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby being a horse race. So that's what it says on the front. And on the back, it says woman. There is a song called Run for the Roses by Dan Fogelberg. And it's about a horse being bred for the Kentucky Derby. The lyrics are actually so beautiful that I think it's worth reading out loud because it relates. It's important. It's part of this journey. So Run for the Roses by Dan Fogelberg goes as such. Born in the valley and raised in the trees of western Kentucky on wobbly knees, with mama beside you to help you along, you'll soon be growing up strong. All the long lazy mornings in pastures of green, the sun on your withers, the wind in your mane, could never prepare you for what lies ahead, the run for the roses so red. And it's run for the roses as fast as you can, your fate is delivered, your moment's at hand. It's the chance of a lifetime in a lifetime of chance, and it's high time you joined in the dance. It's high time you joined in the dance. From sire to sire, it's born in the blood, the fire of a mare and the strength of a stud. It's breeding and it's training, and it's something unknown that drives you and carries you home. And it's run for the roses as fast as you can. Your fate is delivered, your moment's at hand. It's the chance of a lifetime in a lifetime of chance, and it's high time you joined in the dance. First of all, poetry. I absolutely love that. I haven't actually listened to the tune, but reading the lyrics were wonderful. The reason why this is so spectacular as a choice for a jumper is because this song is all about a horse that was born for this race. Its destiny is this race, and it's going to be so much harder than it ever thought it would be. For this jumper to appear in front of the dartboard is saying this industry, this job, making music, being an artist, it's in your blood, it is in your destiny, you are always going to do this thing, but it's going to be harder than you ever thought. You have to stand here and take all of this hate, all of this pain, while you fulfill your destiny. But it's high time you joined in the dance. Just as a side fact about the Kentucky Derby and the fact that this jumper says woman on the back of it, only 6 women have ever ridden in the Kentucky Derby. It is that much harder for women to get into that race, quite literally. It is that much harder for them to succeed at it. And it is that much harder to be a solo female artist facing this industry and all of the scrutiny that comes with it. This is a really extraordinary choice, and it is my favorite thing in the entire music video. I'm completely obsessed with it. Feel free to be obsessed with it with me. Then we go back to the holographic look. At first glance, I actually thought this skirt was a newspaper print, which would make perfect sense, but upon looking at it more closely, it's actually a nautical theme. So it has nautical stars on it, it has ropes, it has old ships on it, it has the words me, you, forever printed across it. It also has the all-seeing eye, but I'm not sure that's relevant here. This nautical theme is suggesting that she is tied to this boat. She's tied to this industry or to this fate. She's tied to this relationship between her audience or the media. Ropes on old ships were called lifelines because they tethered you to the boat so you would never be separated. The all-seeing eye, I don't think is meant to particularly symbolize anything unless we're gonna go a bit conspiracy theory here, because the all-seeing eye is the symbol of the secret society, the Illuminati. So, maybe we're nodding at the conspiracy of the media to drag down celebrities by any means, but I think it's probably just coincidence, rather than being a purposeful nod to any kind of conspiracy. In front of her are a pair of pink Converse, so there is an option there for comfort, but we see in a couple of shots time that she actually ends up wearing a pair of high heels, and those high heels are clear plastic. We also see furniture in this room that appears later in the sporting arena, like the TV. When we get a closer look at all of her shoes and this dressing room, we see all of the shoes are some sort of shade of red, green, yellow. A bunch of them are completely transparent, just like the sheer dresses that we've spoken about. Red shoes, of course, is something that has turned up a couple of times with IU, and we know very well about the red shoes. And then she chooses the clear blue plastic pair that are in the dead center of the shot, and we have the shot of her feet in those clear shoes in a goldfish tank, because of course they are a Vec goldfish, in fact. Obviously, I don't need to explain any kind of goldfish metaphor to you. That's all very clear. There's a creepy side to this that might just be me seeing things because I spend too much time on the internet, but also probably not. I think that this is also a nod to the fetishization of celebrities. It is a known practice for people to troll the internet to find photos of internet personalities or celebrities' feet to put them up on foot fetish websites. Of course, this isn't done with their consent. These photos are stolen. The image of their feet is stolen and put on a fetish website. So this super close-up, this is the kind of thing that would end up on a website like that, and I think actually is a nod to fetishization and the hypersexualization of celebrities, whether they're doing it for themselves or it's being done to them. It's also worth noting that her nail polish is chipped, which suggests that everything isn't as perfect as it seems. A final moment in the green room, and IU is looking despondently at that yellow phone that is off the hook and not plugged into the wall. She looks so disappointed in this moment. It appears to me that this is something that has been ruined for her. She wishes the phone would ring or could ring, or that she could call out, but she can't. Her words have been taken from her, stripped, misconstrued. The privilege of communication has been taken from her, and now this phone lies completely useless on her floor. We get a close-up of the scarf look. I found this very funny because I kept calling this the babushka look in my head, and then I found a tweet of someone calling this the Ajama look. Wrapping a scarf around your head is the very sort of classic Hollywood or the old style way of disguising your appearance as you went out. So this is her stepping outside of her house. She's out on the balcony where everyone can see her, so she's trying to disguise herself. She's also aging herself. She's making herself, this is awful, but she's making herself overlookable because society tends to overlook older people. And now we have that little punk rock look. This is also animal print, so we're looking at the idea of being an animal in a zoo, much like the goldfish. You're something that's being stared at and observed, and we have this really clear yellow space that corner is hers. Outside of that corner we have red books and we have a green box, so we have something that is accessible and you are allowed to touch or get involved with or look at or whatever, and then we have some things that are completely out of reach and you shouldn't be touching those things. More of the yellow with the holographic look. I mean, even her phone is gold because that's the closest thing you can get to yellow with an iPhone. Sitting on the yellow rug, so she's claimed a little space among all of these peach colored walls, and the yellow umbrellas, which get used basically from now until the end of the music video. The yellow umbrellas are her carrying her personal space around with her everywhere that she goes. So when she's out in the big wide world, as she is for the rest of the music video, it's like her cone of silence. This is the space that she is allowed and you're not allowed to be in. It's kind of like social distancing, except just being respectful of somebody's personal space. And then we get to the arena. First of all, she is sitting on a line drawing machine. That's how you draw lines on a sporting pitch. She is sitting in the one part of a sporting arena that has the maximum lines and sitting on a line drawing machine. So clearly going with the line metaphor there. The thing about this spot, this choice for the sporting arena for the stadium, obviously it is the right visual metaphor to go with yellow CARD because we're going for a sporting metaphor. Of course it would be in a sporting field. But what stadiums are built for is to spectate a sport. And her occupying the floor of a stadium like that means that somewhere there is an audience sitting in the bleachers watching her. All sporting arenas are based on the design of colosseums. Everyone knows the Colosseum in Rome, but you may or may not know that that is certainly not the only Colosseum in the world. Where there were Romans, there were colosseums. There are colosseums everywhere. because they are the original entertainment arena. They were built for the express purpose of being entertained by watching whatever was going on in the arena. Naturally, we associate coliseums with gladiatorial battles, which turned human brutality into a spectator sport. So having the celebrity protagonist turn up on the field of this sporting arena is like saying watching the rise and fall of a celebrity is a spectator sport. It's like spectating a blood sport, and there are some people who will be watching it because they enjoy seeing the brutality of it. Not everyone will be watching with good intentions. The way she appears on this field as well, coming through this frame, is very reminiscent of gladiators coming through the gate of the Colosseum or popping up from the trapdoors that are underneath it. Speaking of appearing from this frame, wow, did I spend a lot of time on this shot. So I watched this fabulous YouTube channel that I absolutely can recommend called Corridor Crew. They do a section called Special Effects Artists React, and they watch all sorts of special effects and break down how they're done. They have gotten in my brain because I went back and forth on this shot for ages trying to figure out how it was done, because I felt like it was a practical effect. Something about the soccer field above the frame made me feel like it was printed, and so she was kind of standing behind something. Though of course it could be green screened, it could be a composite shot. And as I was going back and forth trying to figure out how this effect was done, the point of this shot hit me in the face and made me feel very embarrassed. And the point is, no matter how the effect was done, it's an illusion. The whole thing is an illusion. All this space, all this football field, all that area, and we see this much of IU, and only when she wants us to. This idea that we are getting to see the whole thing is an illusion. She has been thrown into this arena like a gladiator for the sacrifice. We can assume that the stadium is full of spectators waiting to see whatever happens from her. Maybe she gets ripped limb from limb by a tiger. Who knows? And here she is looking unbelievably comfortable, sitting in the middle of the arena where yellow flowers have sprouted up, and so has some of her furniture. IU is going about turning this space that should be the stage for her fall into her own area. This floral motif again of flowers blooming in adversity. And this furniture here is also saying that she is living her life in the public eye. We get that second shot I was talking about from the hall where she's poking her head out of a front door seeing if it's safe to leave. And then we come back to my favorite jumper. So we're in the second verse. She's got her fingers in her ears. She doesn't want to hear what's being said because this is all about the phrase of talk less, not my business, all of that. And we have a waveform ring. I was so delighted when I looked this up and found out what it is. I'm sure most of you know what it is. That ring with the waveform printed on it is actually IU's personal ring, and one that matches with Uenna's, who attended her 10th anniversary fan meeting. If you were to play that waveform, it would say, "Violets, I'm always on your side." That was IU's message to Uenna's, which is so sweet. What's wonderful about that is this is in the room with all of the telephones. This is where we're saying talk less, not my business, all of that kind of jazz. So the one bit of sound that's in the room is that waveform, the good side of the relationships between IU and the Uennas. That's the one positive thing we have in there. The rest of the room is actually fairly negative, which we're going to come to in a second. We have the yellow umbrella in use, and she has that orange-red plaited through her hair, trying to show more of the no-go zone. If you come and physically touch her, that's a no-go zone. Back to the phones. All of the phones here are shades of yellow, blue, green, red, orange. We have pinks in there, we have whites in there, but they're all on the same spectrum of that. We have one of the only solid red things in the entire music video, and that is the phone in front of IU, the Not My Business phone. These phones are called landlines, and they're called landlines because they used to be quite literally plugged into the phone line. We are reflecting that line metaphor with landline phones. There's a reason why you say when you're on the internet that you're online. It's because once upon a time you could only get to the internet if you were plugged into the telephone line. You're offline if you are off the telephone line. All of these phones being these colors suggest that these are open lines of communication, some of which are being used for gossip. Those are probably all the red and yellow ones. Speaking of gossip and just such a great shot, we cut back to that field and IU is lying around doing absolutely nothing. And this coincides with the moment when in the lyrics she talks about doing nothing, and yet you're still going to say, my gosh. So we have the line saying, I didn't even do anything, and you're still scandalized. And that's being visualized here by her lying down in the field doing absolutely nothing. Going along with the talk less, we have the big cat look with these big fake lips. Yes, they're the color of natural lips, but they're also that peachy color that is turning up everywhere else, saying if you keep talking, you're going to end up in the red zone. When we come back to the grassy knoll, everyone who just had black umbrellas now has yellow umbrellas, and IU has her umbrella closed. This is much like the balcony scene where everyone else had yellow sheets or flags and she had none, where everyone else is allowed to have their personal space, but she doesn't get any because her umbrella's closed. She is, however, carving it out in the middle of the football field. So the machine that's at her feet at this point isn't the line painter that we saw before. That's actually a push lawnmower, which says that she is carving out her own space in this arena. If you're going to force her to be under everybody's watchful eye, she's going to, by hook or by crook, carve out her own space and make a safe space for herself. We then get the only red outfit, which is the Balenciaga outfit, and we are among all of these orange, peachy colored chairs. She is representing now the red card in among all of those people that are verging on the edge of going too far. It's like she's standing among all the people who have turned up to the arena just to watch the blood sport, saying, red card. All of you people here, you've crossed the line, you've gone too far, red card. Indeed, when you look at the whole stadium and you get a full look at the seats, I don't know whether they did this in post or whether they just happened to find the world's most perfect stadium, but part of the seats are orange and the rest of the seats are blue. As we said, blue is representative of celebrity, and coincidentally, the blue section is actually the members section of the stadium. So it just so happens the area where celebrities quite literally would sit if they went and saw a game played here is also the color representing the celebrity or the person who's under the public eye here. We then have this broken line. This line has been broken because of people repeatedly crossing the line. So it's been broken everywhere or every time somebody's crossed the line into her space. It is a repeating pattern, and that also coincides with IU saying repeat, repeat. It's easy, right? But in this image, the repetition is a negative repetition because her space is being repeatedly invaded. We then have the blue box and the chair. The blue box could be representative of celebrity, as blue is in this music video, or it simply could be a visual representation that you stay on your side and I'll stay on my side. There's a second where we catch up with the story of the packing up the green room. We have a shot of IU hanging up the red phone. We have a shot of the newspaper on the empty chair now, so she's not having anything to do with that. She's no longer reading into the newspaper. And please do note that the newspaper that is on the chair has no yellow on it anymore. So if she was on a front page story, it's been removed and all that's left there now is red. And in the next shot, she is in a fully yellow space. So she has had to leave the green zone that has been ruined for her. She has had to leave the phone, leave the newspaper, leave all of that and come into this fully yellow space that's just hers. However, the yellow space has been cramped down to the very bottom of the room, and the window that was exposed in the green room is now covered by a curtain, as is the back wall. So she is now literally living behind the curtain. Yes, it's a space of her own, but it's lonely and it's cramped. At the beginning of the bridge, as we know is my favorite part of the song, we have IU turning around from a bunch of girls that look pretty similar, all with the plaits and the jewelry and the denim jackets and everything. In one side, you could say this is her trying to be like everybody else, wanting to be like everybody else, but this also coincides with the part of the song that is saying, oh, it's my fault again, right? She sort of sarcastically says, oh, it's my fault. It's not because you've done anything wrong. It's my fault again, right? So we have this lineup of people, and it could have been any of them, but this one person, just IU, is being singled out from this crowd, and it's her fault. We have a flash of the consequences of people not learning their lesson, and that is a red flag over the balcony and the entire building has gone pink, which is the warning that if you don't heed the yellow card warning, everything's going to become untouchable. It won't just be me in my space with my red flag. Everything else as well is all going to be off limits. You're going to lose it all. So best to keep it to the yellow zone. To finish off the bridge, there is a rapid succession of most, not all, but most of the looks that she does through the music video. And it's as if all of her is asking you to learn this lesson and toe the line. We finish off on some sort of sporting court that incredibly has a green zone, has a red zone, and has yellow lines on it, and manages to touch on all of the visual motifs of the music video. How they found that was brilliant. And right at the end, those magical purple shoes whisk her back through the frame again. Whether she came into our world for a little bit or she was returning to her world is up for debate. But what is for absolute certain is this message through this frame: what you think you know, you don't know. What you think you see, you don't see. It's all an illusion. You're only seeing what I want you to see, and anything that's outside of the frame is none of your business. And so off she disappears back into her own little space again. And there endeth the music video. As closely as I looked at all of this, I am sure that there is more to be seen. If there are elements in this music video that you have picked up on that I have missed, I would absolutely love to hear them. Drop in the comments what you have caught that I have missed, or any differing interpretations of what we're looking at. I always want to hear everyone else's opinion on that. So please do let me know what else you see in this fabulous music video. It is so rich. There is so much going on here. Thank you so much for joining me for the music video breakdown. 감사합니다. 사랑해요, and I will see you soon for more. 안녕.